In the 2022 midterm election, Gen Z showed up in record numbers to cast their votes, playing a pivotal role in the outcome of the election. Nevertheless, the polarization of today's political climate is impacting their community, beliefs, and mental health. Welcome to Normalize the Conversation. I'm your host, Francesca Reicheter, and today I'm joined by speaker, journalist, and economics master's student Noelle Fitchett. Noelle is the host of the Out of Context podcast, where she discusses political and social issues in the news that is often being taken out of context from a Gen Z perspective. She's passionate about freedom of speech and glorifying Christ in all that she does. Join us as we discuss maintaining your mental health amid determining what you stand for, regardless of what side you fall on. Noelle, I am so excited for our conversation today. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we jump in, I want to check in. How are you really?
I've been better to be completely transparent. Moving halfway across the country has definitely impacted my mental health. And it's been a bit of a culture shock. And, I feel like a lot of Gen Z, at least what I've seen on TikTok, everyone's kind of in this phase of like, what the heck am I doing with my life? And it's just really weird. So, yeah, it's kind of where I'm at right now.
I can so relate to that. Figuring out who you are, where you want to be, and then actually moving physically. I go back and forth between two states, and it is so hard everything's so different. You cross state lines, and for some reason, everyone's different, everyone's beliefs are different, every conversation's different, every building looks different. The McDonald's looks different in every state.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, no,
blows my mind.
seriously. It feels like a different country, to be completely honest. Like going from Los Angeles to like a small town in Texas, I feel like I'm in a different country. People are different, people dress different. Even the things that people value and like the things people want to talk about, like I'm very used to like having political conversations or things that are like really concerning about the world. And then here people are like, I just want to go dance, have a beer, and, just enjoy an open field. Like it's just very different. And it's cool. They're both unique in their own way, but just very different.
That's very different because when you're going from serious conversations all the time, I know for me that becomes part of my identity. And then suddenly it's back to this time where I don't want to say the world is simple, but it's simpler and you don't have to know exactly who you are, where you stand, and be ready to defend that at all times. You can just laugh and have fun and enjoy something.
Yes, totally. That's been hard for me to learn, like actually learn to just slow down and be able to soak up things around and enjoy time being slower and having conversations that are different than what I'm used to. Like you said, like I was always on defense mode, I guess, when I was in LA because there's a lot of stuff going on the past 2 years. But like being here is, I guess it's been good because I know eventually I'm gonna move back to the city. But it's been good to like actually, I guess be have like a refresh, like learn to slow down and learn to like enjoy life a little bit. It's been difficult though, harder than I thought.
I bet. And it's so, I think, taxing on our mental health when we're put in a position where we're constantly defending ourselves or fear that we're going to have to defend something we say. And when every conversation is built around this idea that I don't know if someone's going to agree with what I say and I need to be ready to fight back, but then also need to be respectful so I don't come off as this mean person or this bad person.
I feel like when 2020 happened, everyone kind of had to like pick a side in a way, and it's been toned down. I think a lot of people are mending friendships and it's getting a little bit better, but when I was pretty apolitical, I went down the rabbit hole and my views kind of changed. And when I went public with those views, I got doxxed. So like people came to my house, I got death threats, and it just got really bad online. It was like the if you care about what people think, get doxxed and you will never care what people think ever again after getting doxxed. But that kind of happened to me. So I think after that, I was kind of numb to any other situation. But I did encounter that living in LA.
That is a lot to handle. I mean, we're young, and for to have an opinion and suddenly death threats, people showing up to your house, how did you even begin to cope with that?
Honestly, when it first happened, because I didn't even realize it was happening, I didn't have Twitter at the time. I just saw like a ton of people watching my Instagram story because like my account was public. I didn't have a big account or anything. And then I just saw like my follower count like dramatically just like start dropping. And then my brother's friend, texted him and he was like, "Hey, your sister's like on like her name's being flown around like on Twitter. It's pretty bad." And that's when I saw everything. But honestly, like that night I kind of broke down, like being completely transparent. It was so difficult. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna delete Instagram. I'm gonna delete everything and just disappear from the internet because I don't want to see these lies about me. I don't want to see all of this stuff. Everyone just thinks I'm a terrible person. Like my life's basically over. Because people emailed my school too, and at the time I wanted to go to medical school, so I just thought everything was pretty much over for me. But then like a friend, I remember that night she told me, "Noelle, no one can hurt you unless you let them." And I was so like mad when she told me that because I was like, I'm literally like so sad right now, so hurt. People I thought were my friends are just like saying terrible things. But she was right. Like the next day I realized that, and there's this quote from Princess Diaries that says, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And I was like, that
Oh, I love that.
resonated so much. But yeah, like recognizing that I had the power to I had kind of like it was like a gate. Like I could allow what I was going to let hurt me. And when I realized that I could control what I take in and what I deem to be value, and that ultimately my value is not in what other people say about me, that my value is in something greater and something that transcends this world. And so that honestly really allowed me to not care. And there was moments where it was hard. There's moments where I still cried and I just wanted to go into a different state, but I learned so much through that. And honestly, I can genuinely say that like hate comments don't bother me anymore.
That's first of all, to get to that point where you want to disappear and just it feels like the world's ending is such an isolating point and moment. And to in that, maybe not in that very moment, but you said the next day, get to that point where you can't hurt me unless I allow you to hurt me. You can't hurt me if I choose not to listen, take that message in, is such a like quick 180. Was that just like an instant she said it clicked when you woke up? Is it something you had to process?
I think it's it definitely for me, I think it was a honestly, it was God. Like that's the best way I can describe it. Like it genuinely was God. I think without God, I would have really just I think I would have maybe eventually got to that point, but I think it would have taken me a whole lot longer than a day. Because I usually I'm a person, not so much a people pleaser, but I want to genuinely I want to see people connect, and I want to see I don't like seeing people bicker, I guess. Like, and so to see people on the internet, I guess me causing so much bickering, that I didn't like to be the problem, if that makes sense. Like that is what hurt the most. And realizing that what I was saying was aligned with my values and my morals, and knowing that ultimately like God knows my heart and these people don't. These people, some of them are just strangers on the internet. Most of them are strangers on the internet. That genuinely expedited that process. But yeah, honestly, like that's probably the easiest way to like describe it was God, because I'm as a person that would have been very difficult to get to that point that fast.
It is really difficult as a person having something, at least for me, having something to believe in and someone that I can just like, it's going to work out. Everything happens for a reason. I'm very big on that belief that we're going to be okay. We're going to get through this. And that I know message helps me when I am on the floor crying, which happens way more than I should ever admit to. It's so nice when you have that. For you, does God play a big role in your life?
Absolutely. I went through a toxic situationship in 2019, and that really impacted me. I was at like my all-time low with my mental health. And honestly, things were kind of shaky in my relationship and my understanding of God prior to that. And I, in that situation, was part of the problem. And so when that situation ended, I really felt like that was when my relationship with God actually started to blossom into something authentic and something true. And I started going to a different church, and a lot of things started to change for me. And I'm so thankful that that happened before 2020, because the results of everything that happened in 2020 probably would have looked a lot different. But um, just knowing that, honestly, like when I realized that there's nothing I can do as a person to become a there's nothing I can do as a person to make myself feel better, that God is the one who has forgiven me and redeemed me, and because of him I can be confident in who he is, and I can be saved because he loves me. Like that really changed my whole outlook on life, that there's nothing I can do to I guess there's nothing I can do to earn grace. And that like really changed my whole life, because I think I've always been a perfectionist. I've always been someone who puts their identity in like their grades, and realizing that nothing I do, even if I'm this perfect kid, I'm not a perfect person, but like even if I'm this like amazing person, like I can't I can't earn grace, and knowing that a God who transcends everything loves me and forgives me, and I don't have to earn anything because I can't. Like knowing that he is sufficient, and it's okay that I'm not. There's just a lot that really impacted my life and impacted everything that I do. And without that, I honestly probably I don't even know if I would be here if it wasn't for that. So,
For me, that knowledge that I will be loved no matter what. If I do the wrong thing, say the wrong thing, react in a way that could be perceived mean, or just if I don't know who I am, what I'm doing, if I am falling apart, I'm still loved. For me, that's the same thing. It's what kind of keeps me alive in those moments where I struggle to love myself.
yeah, no, absolutely. I resonate with that. And like I this is like silly, but there's this like cartoon that I saw when I was younger, and it was just about this character, and basically like the good things and the bad things bounced off of her. And that's kind of like the image that I have in my head now of like with Christ in my life, even the good things, because I think sometimes we can place our identity in, okay, all these people are saying these really good things about me. So that that has a tendency to also become our identity, but knowing that like those good things and the bad things don't define me, and ultimately God defines me, that just alleviates so much weight off my shoulders personally.
Yes, because people can take away the nice things they say, they can change it. And then when your identity is wrapped up in what other people say, that's something that I've recently learned, is when your identity is wrapped up in other people saying, "Oh, you're so kind and you're so helpful." And then the minute you can't do something from that for them, they're like, "You're a terrible person, you don't actually care." And I'm like, I spiraled. I was like, "Oh my goodness, you're right. That's something's wrong with me. I'm not good enough." I went down that rabbit hole so far because my identity was tied into the nice things they were saying, because I wanted to be that person. I wanted to make people happy.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think that's like because it's good, like it feels nice to hear compliments. Like
Yeah.
it's like, okay, cool, I'm doing something right, like I'm making people happy. But then, like you said, those things can be taken away in a matter of seconds. And I mean, people change their minds so frequently that it's just not a very sturdy place to place our identity in.
Exactly. And the world is so polarized where something that seems okay today is wrong tomorrow and politicized tomorrow. So when your identity is wrapped up in something that is external, it's it's impossible. It's impossible because you never know what the media is going to grab tomorrow and run with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen that so much within the past 2 years if people are praised in one moment and then canceled the next. So it's just this world is not stable, and it's comforting to know that this world is ultimately not my home. So yeah.
Exactly. And on to that point, I really want to talk about how you've been able to figure out your identity or what you believe in, whether it's politically, religiously, just who you are in despite of all the pressure of the media telling us exactly what we have to believe in and why we're wrong. So for people who are trying to just figure it out, what do I believe in? What do I believe? Every channel is telling you something completely different, a different side. How did you figure that out for yourself?
I think for me, so I originally had different views. I think going into college, first gen, Hispanic, oldest child, I kind of like tended to put my identity in all of those things and all of those titles. And so whenever anyone disagreed with me politically, whether it be on privilege or other types of political conversations, I took it as a personal attack. So I was definitely the person who was not that pleasant to be around because I always took everything as a personal attack. And even during COVID, rather than respecting other people's differing opinions, I was the person giving people dirty looks for different decisions that they were making. So I went from that to a very different perspective now. And I think part of the reason of that was I really cared about truth. And I know that in this day and age, it's kind of hard to figure out what is true and what's not true. But ultimately seeking, okay, what is the truth about this topic? And am I willing to put my personal biases aside and hear this view? And that was very difficult to do. But I'm really thankful for people when it comes politically to people like Thomas Sowell, who grew up in a very rough area in Harlem, but he has very different opinions. He used to be more of a Marxist, and now he's more of a libertarian capitalist. And I really liked hearing his views because I resonated. He had a very similar story to my dad, grew up with a single mom, and hearing him kind of, he didn't fit the mold. He's Black, he's from Harlem, he went to Harvard, and hearing him have the views that he did was very, it broke my echo chamber because I'd never seen anyone that looked like him talk, express the views that he did. So honestly, like being willing to search for truth and put your biases aside, is so important because pursuing truth, I think it doesn't matter. Like if you're trying to find truth to advocate for a left wing ideal or a right wing perspective, it's going to be biased. Like that's not, we should just pursue truth, and wherever that takes us, that's where it takes us. And I think that that's what I did, and it's been really beneficial. And it's difficult because you won't agree with your side a lot of the time, and that's okay. And I think don't be overwhelmed by that. If you are not agreeing with your political side of the aisle, it's okay. Some issues are nuanced. Some issues are not, like the right doesn't have all the answers, the left doesn't have all the answers. And I think that that's really important to remember. Like you're not crazy if that happens.
Yes, there's things on both sides that I do not and will not I don't agree with, and there are things on both sides. I'm like, you have a point, you're right. And figuring out that it's okay not to be completely in line with the GOP or completely in line with the Democrats, and just figure out who you are, and realized I can agree with some pieces on both sides and disagree and use my voice to agree and disagree. And that's okay and that's normal. It doesn't mean I'm lost in the middle. It just means I'm a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think most people are somewhere in that same space. Like
Yes.
the media likes to paint it out like Republicans are all super far right, and the left is all super far left, but in reality there's a lot of overlap. I have so many friends. For example, one of my friends identifies as a political leftist, but she's pro-life, and she's like an anomaly to me because I haven't met someone who identifies as more left-wing but is also pro-life. Then I have friends on the right who are, recognize that we need to address our criminal justice system, that are anti-death penalty. So there's just so much overlap and so much nuance in these issues. And I think we need to talk about these things and not like block our friends or block our family members who think differently than us, because we'd be so surprised by how much common ground we have if we just talk to people.
Exactly. It's this lack of communication, and just what's trending on Twitter must be what's right. And those are the only conversations we're having. And we're not giving people the chance to put their opinions out there and have a response that's respectable. That's like, I understand why, or I see that you agree that way. I don't understand. Can you explain more about where that belief comes from? Because for me, I know that when someone said something and I like didn't understand it, the first time I asked them, like, where does that come from? I was like, you know what? Now I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I never would have looked at it from that perspective. And I would have continued to disagree with you and fight with you till the end of time. And it destroyed my mental health trying to figure out what I believed and what the right perspective was, when in fact everyone's coming to the table with different perspectives, and the solution is probably somewhere in the midst of it.
Yeah, no, totally. And I always think of, I forgot his name. He did a video with FAIR. It's like Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. They're like a pro-human group. They're nonpartisan. And he would go to like KKK meetings. He's black, and he would go and he would talk to them, and he changed so many minds. And that really opened my mind, because I was like, okay, if he can go talk to people who like very much so are hateful and change people's minds, then I can definitely have a conversation with my cousin or my friend who does not want to talk to me because of my views. Like, I can definitely have more patience and try to find that middle ground, because I think sometimes with Instagram and social media, like the algorithm pushes polarizing information and pushes polarizing people. And we don't always see that nuance because we're only seeing one extreme, or we honestly just we only follow people who think like us. So we're not exposed to people who may agree on some issues, but then disagree on other issues. So it's so important that we talk to our friends and people who think differently than us.
Yes, it is. Oh, and like you said, we follow people again who think like us. So when for the first time we're in a room where we're the only one who thinks differently, that can be so overwhelming to, am I right? Am I wrong? Who am I? What's wrong with me? Why am I in this room? It's just, again, I feel like every conversation around politics or around your identity, around religion, around race, everything today is there's this lack of conversation. So when you're put in a room that's different from what you're used to, what you're expecting, it becomes like an internal crisis.
Yeah, no, totally. And I think it's like we can even question if I guess if we're on the right side of history, or if we're saying the
Yeah.
right thing, because everyone disagrees with us. And I think that was something when I was in LA, it did take a toll on my mental health at first. And also there's like an element of fear for a little bit. I remember I was in the conversationalist, they had a like pro-life, pro-choice conversation. And when I went to the premiere, everyone in the premiere, pretty much everyone, was pro-choice. And I'm pro-life, and that's a stance that I've came to more strongly within the past year and a half. And it was scary. It was scary being in a room full of people who I knew disagreed with me, because I guess at TC, I knew that I was safe because I knew that people were willing to hear a different perspective. But then to be around people in person who I've never met in my life, who I know feel very strongly about this issue, like some people even walked out and left. Um, I was a little bit scared because I was talking to everyone, was friends with everyone before, but I didn't know how it was going to go after at the reception. But surprisingly, a lot of people were like, "Hey, I disagree, but I really valued you sharing your perspective." And that was very alleviating. And I think that also strengthened and emboldened me, like empowered me a little bit more to speak about my views and to share why I have those views, because I shouldn't prejudge someone that they're going to hate me or harass me. And I think that's something that we can kind of succumb to after 2020, of like being afraid that people are going to hate us. But I mean, if we don't share our views and share them boldly, then people will never hear another side to a discussion. So, yeah, it's definitely scary, but it's so worth it. And people should definitely take that step, to share their views.
I agree. And I remember that premiere and watching. I mean, there were four of you on the couch talking, but what stood out to me was you and Victoria, because your views were so opposing, yet you were both so respectful in your counter.
Mhm.
And that's so rare. And I think women are often pitted against each other and kind of forced to compete. So the language in the conversation is not always very respectful when women are put into a place where they're supposed to, not that they're supposed to fight, but they're supposed to debate, I guess, in this situation. And to see both of you do it so respectfully and share your views, and you both found something like, oh, I see why you think that way. And in the end, your opinions didn't have to change, but the respect you had for each other didn't, it wasn't all blown up just for having a conversation and sharing your views. And I remember listening and agreeing with pieces that both of you said. And I was like, wow, now I need to reevaluate where my perspective comes from, why I think the way I do, and how I could have a conversation to learn more on both perspectives. So that for me was amazing to see a conversation like that, so respectful.
It was so funny because I Victoria and I like I don't know if she remembers, but during 2020 in like the heat of TikTok, we would like stitch each other's videos and like go back and forth and argue. And like it never got to the point where we called each other names, like it or like cursed at each other or anything, but we definitely like had heated exchange a few times. So it was really funny because like when we went to the set, we had to follow each other, like all follow each other on Instagram for like the recording. And she doesn't know this, so, but maybe she'll find out one day. But when we switched phones with each other to follow each other, she was like, "Oh, I can't find your account." We hadn't switched phones. She was just looking at my name on her Instagram, but she didn't realize that she had blocked me after a heated exchange. So, like, yeah, that happened behind the scenes. But she's honestly like, we did agree on one thing off camera, and that was cancel culture. Like, she does disagree with people like harassing people and doxing people. So that was a really cool conversation that we were able to have off camera. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting conversation to have.
That I love that you bring that perspective in, because it's not always like we saw the perspective where you guys sat there and respectfully disagreed. And then you also had times where in the past you guys disagreed, but no name calling. I love that. I was watching updates from a debate last night in Florida because I'm out here in LA right now for the governor race, and no one was answering questions. They were name calling each other and like bullying each other back and forth. And that's become the model of what we see. And that's how people become to mimic the debate. So instead of anyone having useful views or useful plan, it's I'm going to do this and you're a bad person, and just start attacking them. And it's like, how are you going to do this? Why are you going to do this? We don't know. But we know that you think he's a bad person and that he's a failure and he's the problem. And no, it's the
Yeah.
model that we're shown on in the media is changing the way we talk today.
Yeah, no, and literally these are our Congress members. Like these are the
Yes.
people who we're supposed to be looking up to. Like these are the people running our country. And it like frustrates me because I always like I went to go speak at a university earlier this month, and that was something I really tried to every time I speak, I try to stress that to them is like don't call people names. Like you will literally your whole argument goes out the window the moment you call someone a name. Like it's just demeaning, it's a logical fallacy. It just does not work. And I mean, I was seeing a debate in Georgia last night with two of the candidates, and that's all they did. Like, they didn't address the questions, the issues. They just called each other names, assumed things about each other. And I was like, great, I don't have trust in either of you to accomplish anything because you just care about like virtue signaling and calling people names.
Exactly. And what I think worries me the most about it is watching like my younger cousins or my friends' younger siblings, like they're growing up in a world where that's the base of what a debate looks like. That's what it means when you disagree with somebody, you attack them, you call them names. You don't address what's wrong, you just start attacking. So, how is this going to play out 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when our generation is the head of the country? Are we going to be able to have useful conversations? Are we going to be able to come to the table and actually have a sense of unity? Can we unify the world if everything we're being taught is to attack?
Yeah. And as a generation that like struggles with mental health so much, like that is such a big issue. And it's like, why are we calling people names? Like, why are we bullying people more if we already are struggling with our mental health? We're struggling with our confidence, depression, anxiety. Like, why would we even? Because that takes a toll. Like that. Like it telling someone these really horrible things is going to impact their mental health. So if we truly care about mental health, we need to be the change we want to see and not call people names and truly put people's mental health first.
Exactly. When we're on social media, I think it's so easy to forget that there's another person on the other side of the phone, that someone is going to have to receive the message. And even if they're mean to us and we receive it, when we're putting it right back out there, we're continuing it. So for me, it's been a lot of trying to learn how to not read in the tone I'm assuming what the comment is coming from, and then not respond. And sometimes like I respond and delete it so fast. I'm like, oh, I should not have done that. I know I can't do that. I know I can't respond, but sometimes you just wanna, and it's destroying my mental health because for the rest of the day, I'm thinking about how I was mean for 0.2 seconds.
Yeah. No, I think I've gotten to a point where I don't know if this is good or bad, but I just like won't respond to some comments. Like if I know that this person is just mad and they genuinely don't want to have a conversation, I just won't respond. Or maybe I'll come back to it in like a day because I know that I'm gonna say something that someone can screenshot and that's just gonna ruin my character in the future or like the next day. But it's difficult, especially when they attack you personally. It's like you don't even know me and you're making this assumption. But yeah, I feel like waiting it out has helped me a little bit.
That's so smart because the initial response, sometimes we're a little riled up in the moment. The first time we hear someone say something mean to us or kind of attack our character, like you said, who we are, it's so hard to not get super defensive. And when we get defensive, it often comes out in a meaner way. So to be able to take that step back is so important. But what if you take that step back and you're still like, no, I can't get this out of my head. I can't. How do you kind of transition to that point where you're like, okay, I'm gonna put that away and not think about it for the rest of the day?
Honestly, like if I can't get it out of my head, sometimes I'll maybe like not immediately, but I'll make a video about it or I'll make a post addressing that person's claim. And usually it's not like if it's just a personal attack, there's not really a need to make a post on that. But if it's a claim that I feel is like mischaracterizing the argument that I've made on an issue, then I'll take time to like use that energy instead of getting upset. I'll use that energy towards making a post. And an informative post in hopes that that person sees it and in hopes that maybe their mind will be changed or maybe they'll understand my view a little bit more. Um, but yeah, I honestly like genuinely, if it's a personal attack, I tend to not care anymore, but that's honestly because I was doxxed. Like if I wasn't doxxed, then I probably would care a lot more. But like after people air out your dirty laundry on Twitter and like literally say the most vile things, it's like, okay, I've heard worse, which is sad, but it's kind of like that's where I was at.
I think, I mean, that's terrible when that happens to you. And that for me is my like biggest fear in the world is that I'm gonna say the wrong thing and it's going to blow up in my face. And then my whole life is over. Your career is over. This is going to come back. People are going to be showing these screenshots for the next like 10,000 years of your life. Like it's over. How do you, how did you get to a point where you're like, that does not define my life?
Honestly, like I mean, I still like think about that because it's like during 2020, I made a whole lot of TikToks and I mean, I've changed my mind on some things, but knowing that one, again, like God is sovereign and he holds my future and like nothing I do or anyone can do to change, like no one can change that. And also, like from a practical sense, I look at people like I mean, I'm not a fan of Obama, but I really like what he did in his book, where he talked about when he did drugs in college. And he kind of just like, he publicly admitted, I did this. It wasn't right. And I've grown from it. And I'm not that person anymore. And I think that that's a really useful tool. If we do something public, if we run for public office, or if we do something on a public platform, we can acknowledge, like, it's probably best for us to be the first person to acknowledge our mistakes and own up to them and then say, okay, but I'm not that person anymore and I've grown from this. And this is something I've learned from that. Like, I think that is really helpful.
So wait, you're telling me as a human being, we can grow and change and evolve and not just be the same person we were when we were 5?
Yeah, I mean, like,
Wow.
shocker. Yeah, we can make mistakes.
I had no idea that was allowed. But that's the fear in my head, right? Is that you can't
Yeah.
make a mistake. You can't because it's going to come back and haunt you. And that's a lot of the messaging I think that kind of we're getting and we're receiving these days. And yeah, we are going to change. What I believed 3 years ago is definitely not the same thing I believe in any way, shape, or form today. And why? My life experience has changed. My situation changed. I was no longer in the same environment. I was around different people. I struggled myself. I saw all these different perspectives and I changed and I grew and I evolved. And I'm probably going to change and grow and evolve again, maybe tomorrow. We don't know. But it's okay to change and evolve and grow and not think the same way you thought before. And you don't have to hold on to the same belief because you don't want people to question why you've changed.
Yeah, I think that's like a really common fear. And I've seen that a lot politically with some candidates kind of switching their party affiliation or like their stance. People are like, oh, well, they're not real, like they don't really believe in this issue because they had this view before. And it's like, okay, like you said, people change. Or maybe people weren't as vocal before. And we need to have grace on each other and remember that we have changed our minds so many times. And it's perfectly normal for someone else to change their mind, just like we've changed our mind. And that doesn't mean like we it doesn't mean we have to agree with that person. It doesn't mean we have to support that person. It just means we have grace and we hear them out and just we don't cancel them. We hear them out and we're not, we give them room to grow.
Yes, I mean, canceling a human seems like the most common sense option, right? Like someone says something wrong, up, you're canceled. Like turn mute.
Yeah.
Where's the remote to turn you off? You like we can't. I don't know why it's become such a cancel them, they're done, get rid of them. I mean, there are certain situations if someone is a bad person that I agree with the situation of maybe not having the same brand endorsements with them, maybe not wanting to work with somebody because of certain situations. And I'm not going to get into what that is because I'm not in that experience of had to do that yet. However, I think that for the most part, we could be having like conversations, like purposeful conversations. Why do you feel that way? Where is it coming from? Why don't we bring different people into the room with all different perspectives and opinions and let's have an actual conversation and maybe everyone can grow from it? Because what just happened is someone said something wrong, they were canceled. Everyone who agrees the same way that that person agreed or thought now is on defense against the rest of the world and attacking each other. And now we're on Facebook and our aunts and uncles are canceling Thanksgiving because of one comment that was made that could have been turned into a productive conversation to give everyone the chance to be part of the conversation and maybe educate people to come to the table with new ideas.
Yes, I forgot his name. I saw it this morning and I haven't really commented on the whole like Kanye situation because I just don't I want to just take everything in and like
Yeah.
really listen and kind of fill the situation out and really yeah, think before I speak. But I saw someone and he's Jewish and his name is Lex Friedman and he had Kanye on his podcast and they talked about like all of the comments that Kanye made and he and like Lex disagreed with him and like brought up a lot of valid things for Kanye to consider, but I was just blown away that they were even able to have that conversation. And I think those conversations, I mean, that's a very extreme case, but I think that if these people can do it in that extreme case, we can definitely sit at a table and talk with people about important things that we disagree on.
I think that'll just be more productive than everyone going on Twitter slamming all the brands for associating with him, but not talking about why it was wrong and the damage that can come out of it. Because if we're not addressing the actual problem, that is the problem because it's going to continue. The anger, hate, it's all going to continue if we don't address the problem. The people, if we're able to have these conversations, like you said, having that podcast, that's where we can address the problem and we can initiate change. And let's hopefully educate other people.
And it's like, okay, we're not gonna see any change in this world if we keep being hateful towards each other. Like these are just deep-rooted issues that have been around for so long, and I think it's so important that we're able to have conversations and really address why there's so much hate towards all of these different groups and really make an effort to combat that hate and make a difference.
Exactly, because then again, bringing it back to mental health, the anxiety, the depression, we're seeing the younger generations talk about it more and more. Not saying that it's more prevalent in the younger generations because I do not know the actual statistics, but we are seeing the younger generations talk about it more openly. that's only going to continue if we are growing up to think that everyone is out to get everyone hates each other, and this person's bad because they look this way or because they have this belief. And instead of being able to have a conversation, we are terrified of what's going to happen if we interact. That isolation, the social isolation, the anxiety of what happens, what's going to happen. My heart's racing so fast I can't breathe, and now I am having a panic attack. That's going to continue to get worse if we're not having productive conversations, not just conversations, productive conversations.
Yeah. And no one should fear speaking. Like, we live
Yeah.
in America, we live in 2022. Like, no one should fear just giving their opinion. Like, yeah, you may be wrong. I may definitely agree or disagree with what you're saying, but you should still have a space to say that.
We all have a right to have an opinion. Some opinions may not need to be vocalized if they are intentionally trying to hurt somebody, and we have a right to have our voices heard, whether it is through verbal expression, whether it's writing something down, whether it's just going out and voting. We have our voice gets to be heard.
And I think also, like, just because we allow people to say whatever they want, you also have the right to vocally and boldly disagree with that person. If they're saying
Yes.
something like hateful and wrong, you can definitely speak up and say you're wrong because of this. I believe that this is very hateful and hurtful of you to say, this is damaging to insert a community. Like, that is perfectly okay. Just us allowing someone to give an opinion doesn't mean that we have to agree with them. It doesn't mean that we have to elevate them. It doesn't mean that we have to, sing kumbaya and be best friends. Like, no, we can boldly disagree and passionately disagree, and that's okay.
Wait, people can disagree, not have to be best friends with someone who thinks differently than them, but still talk to them.
Yeah, I know. It's like a
I'm
really
learning so
foreign
much
concept.
today. Everything's just like, wow, had no idea that we could just talk to people and not be best friends with them and disagree. What a wow. I
Yeah.
feel like
What
that's
a
very,
concept.
I wish that there were more conversations like this. For me, a big part of my mental health journey the last few years, probably around the time of COVID, was figuring out what I agree with, what I don't agree with, what do I say, what do I not say? Do I have a right to talk about it? Do I have to exit the conversation? It was so hard to figure out if I deserve to have a voice, when I deserve to have a voice. So conversations like this, hopefully other people who may be feeling that way, may have gone through what I went through with that, can learn that it's okay not to know. It's okay to have a conversation. You don't have to agree. You can be friends, not be friends, and you can respectfully debate.
Yeah. And it's okay not to have an opinion on something too. Like, I feel like we're pressured into like having an opinion on every single situation. And it's like, I'm not a foreign affairs expert. Like, I'm not a expert in this issue, and I'm just gonna sound dumb and waste your time and my time if I try to sound like I am. Like, it's okay not to have an opinion on certain things, and it's okay to take in the information and learn and educate ourselves. And that's something that I've had to learn, and that's okay.
Yes. I was talking to somebody about that the other day, where it was something to do with choices for a parent making for a child. And I was like, I'm not going to give you my opinion on it because I'm not a parent. It's not my kid. I can't tell you what to do. But I can tell you that I think it'd be really great if we had more mental health resources available in schools so that kids are able to cope with what's happening. They're able to find some kind of confidence in themselves. It's like, I can't tell you how to raise your kid or what to do or not to do with your kid, but I can tell you that I think there's a lot of great resources in the community that we can talk about more and give kids and give parents more education, more information, more resources that positively support them. And that's learning the scope. And that's okay. I don't need to have an opinion. I may even think I have an opinion, but it's not my place to give that opinion. Or I don't know, because I'm not raising a kid right now. I have no idea. I cannot tell you how to raise a kid. I can't even begin to think of an opinion for that because that's terrifying to me right now. I'm trying to keep my dog alive.
Yeah, no, I think it's like, I think sometimes like we've reached a point where it's like, oh, you can't say anything or you shouldn't speak on this issue because you're not of this group or like you're not in this situation, I guess. But it's like, I think everyone should be allowed to say their opinion if they want, but also we recognize that, like, for example, in that situation, a parent's voice is going to have a lot more weight than someone who's not a parent. And so, like, that doesn't mean we don't have an opinion on certain issues, but we also recognize that certain voices are going to carry a little bit more weight in certain situations. And that's perfectly okay.
Exactly. It's okay if your opinion is not the most top needed opinion right now, but it doesn't mean you don't have to have an opinion. It doesn't mean you don't have to have voice. It doesn't mean you don't have to talk about it. You could even talk about it with, like the situation, a parent and ask them, well, what's your perspective? As someone who is not a parent, how can I support you? How can I learn? What can I do? Because maybe I don't know. I have no idea how to raise a child, but you need formula and we're struggling to there's a formula shortage. Okay, let me see how other ways to get formula and how I can help you find more supply, more resources. I may not be able to solve the problem, but maybe I can. You told me what the problem is for you specifically. I can go and try to find some kind of resource. I can try to learn what's happening and how I can be an advocate. Doesn't have to be a problem I'm personally facing. It doesn't have to be something I'm completely understanding, but maybe I can just learn how to support someone else if I agree and I feel that I have the capacity.
Yeah, totally. And I love that, like, we can't control every situation, but we can control certain things and we can definitely make a change and help out in those areas. And like that's okay if we can't control. I think that that's the big thing that we have to realize is like it's okay if we can't control everything. It's okay if we don't have all the answers. Um like I think just honestly as a generation, I think we just need to have like a little bit more grace on ourselves that like acknowledging it's okay if we don't have all the answers to things.
In a generation, I think, full of perfectionists, it is so hard. We want to control everything. I mean, can't speak for an entire generation. I want to control everything. I don't want
No,
anything outside
same.
of my control.
Yeah.
It's so, it's hard when you can't, because when you feel like you can, like, fix something and you can't, like, that's to let go of that control. Like, I have to just learn to put in God's hands, or, you know what, I'm not the ones making the laws. I'm voting, but I'm not the one making the laws. So,
Yeah.
can I control that right now? No. Am I going to let that destroy my mental health today? Hopefully not. But am I
Yeah.
going to figure out what I can do when I have that capacity, when I have that space with the resources I have? Absolutely.
Yeah. No, totally. I think that's like so that's such a big part because it's like I'm going to do everything in my power to make a change and to advocate for the issues I'm passionate about. But at the end of the day, like I'm going to rest. And for me, like I have a big comfort in knowing that like God controls everything. And there's just a lot like that definitely lessens my anxiety in when situations don't go or election outcomes don't go the way that I wanted them to.
That that's amazing. It's such a good perspective to have. It's hard to be able to kind of move past that. Because, like you said, that fear. So, knowing that, like you said, good leaders, bad leaders, we have to have bad leaders have good leaders. We have to have good leaders have bad leaders. We need to be able to tell the difference. And hopefully, the next time we vote for who I like to vote based on values and whose I align with. And I don't like to vote based on a party line. And I think that's different for everyone. Some people will vote strictly on a party line and to each their own. But finding why you vote the way you do, what you want to vote for, and how you can hopefully maybe inspire other people, and then leave it at that. Because again, your mental health is worth more than who's in office. And they're probably not going to put funding toward mental health no matter what. No matter who's in office,
Yeah.
they're probably not going to give you the funding you need for your mental health or the appropriate amount of funding. So support yourself. And then when you're feeling ready, use your voice or your resources to change the world and let's make a difference. Maybe our elections will seem a little less frustrating 10 years from now.
I know. I wish we could just like completely get rid of the party labels and just list people's like stances on issues and their platform and what they plan to do. Like I would genuinely be so interested in who we elected if that was the case.
Yes, I think that would be very difficult for a lot of people because I've noticed when I have conversations with people who are very strong on either side, they don't know what the stances are necessarily. They just know they have to vote for them because it's the party. And if we didn't have that label, would we know what our own stances are? Or would the side we identify with or the candidate we identify with, because I can't say candidates even, hopefully candidates aren't completely representative of a side. I like to think that we can get some moderate candidates in there that
Yeah.
have from both, because to me that's important. Um, However, that's not to seem to be the case these days. But if we just, who would we vote for? What if we only saw their actual opinions and their stances?
Yeah. I think it would be so different. Like I think the outcomes would be drastically different because I think again, I think we'd realize that we have so much more common ground than we think that we do. So it'd be really interesting. I mean, I think it'd be cool to try one day. I hope maybe Gen Z can accomplish that because that would be really nice. Like during 2020, I kept hearing the saying, vote blue no matter who. Like super catchy, super great for election season. But it's like, wait, this is actually really bad because we should definitely know why we're voting for who we're voting, whether it's red or blue. We should just have reasons, not no matter who. Like we should definitely know why.
Exactly. Gen Z, let's get together and change the world. Thank you so much for listening to Normalize the Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast is an initiative of Inspiring My Generation, focusing on normalizing the conversation, bringing education and awareness to the forefront, and amplifying global voices to spark change and hope. Inspiring My Generation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization on a mission towards suicide prevention through awareness, conversation, education, and support. Connect with us on Instagram at Inspiring My Generation and visit our website inspiringmygeneration.org to learn more about our work and how you can make a difference.